Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2. I wanted to provide a video to give some form to all the information that's out there. You're probably opened up week 2 module and are freaking out because you're like, oh my gosh, I've got class on Saturday and there is all this information I have to know. You don't have to know it like frontwards and backwards and verbatim. But I thought it would be good for you to go back after class because a lot of this will make more sense. It should make some sense this week as you peruse through it and read something. Just, try to take time every day to dig into something that is listed because there are a lot of resources this week that I provide here in week 2. But also, you don't have a chapter to read or 2 chapters to read. There are a couple of pages to read in the one book. But other than that, it's here on Blackboard. And I'll also try to go over some of this again on Saturday. So let me go ahead and start this by helping you get some expectations for Saturday. We'll use the first part of our class on Saturday to talk about some of the things I list here, but also put them more of a concrete understanding for you where it's like, these things you're expected to do this day. We'll talk about some of those right now, but also reinforce that learning Saturday morning. So we'll have some lecture the first part of class. We'll meet as a big group on Zoom. We'll break out at some point with small groups, and many of you will meet with SFA students being the facilitator of your small groups. I want to make sure that you have an understanding of what to do. And so we're going to demonstrate group leadership. I will try to take the lead on that, and in the big group, hopefully a few of you will volunteer and we can just go barely into a group and try to, hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate a few of the skills that are expected for you. A lot of the skills that are expected in this first group are basic counseling skills. Most of you have had strategies and techniques. There are a few of you who have not. I would say you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, though hopefully you can catch up throughout the semester by observing others and then practicing yourself. And you can practice micro skills individually with people. You don't have to be in a group setting. And that's where the folks that just came out of strategies and techniques this spring, they did it in an individual basis, but most students also practiced with loved ones outside of the counseling sessions that we had there. So please note that's available to you as well. So let's go ahead and get into this week. Let me share my screen. And this will look a little different because I'm going to publish this video and not this one. So here are your week 2 tasks. Please watch the videos. Hopefully none of these will be too long. The longest one is probably this one. You'll want to read through the materials that are listed here. Also read 5 pages from Capuzzi and Stouffer, and we'll get ready. You'll have a discussion at the end here, and hopefully it'll be pretty easy to jump into given all the information that you'll have. So a lot of you are probably like me, where if you haven't demonstrated in front of a group or demonstrated counseling before, you're kind of petrified with fear, a lot of anxiety. You've got the butterflies, and I'm good with that. I really am. If you're not nervous, it means you don't care, or else you think you already know everything. And neither one of those places are good places to be. So please be aware. We're going to meet on Zoom at 8 a.m. Please be logged in at 8 a.m. on Saturday. I will have a we'll have a big group, probably 25, maybe up to 30 of us with the SFA students. So it'll be a big group to start. There are some things that you'll want to do as group participants and as group leaders. And some of these can be found under expectations for group participants. As I go back, and I've taught this class a few times now, as I go back and I look and I consider some of the things that folks have talked about with, what am I gonna, experience in group? I'm kind of nervous. I don't know if I trust people. That's honestly the biggest hindrance to group is, hey, we've got this semi-public. I mean, there's 5 or 6 other individuals that I may not want to share everything with. And that's okay. That's really honestly good, because we don't want to share. We want to have a few boundaries to us, but we do want to share things that are kind of tough for us. And I've got a handout under emotional intensity, and it describes the zone of emotional intensity that we're looking for. We'll probably get to 4 or 5 in the initial meeting with all of us if we demonstrate a group. But then as you break out into your smaller groups, you want to get into 6 or 7 on emotional intensity or emotional distress. Things that are pretty challenging. I don't want people to go into 8 through 10, a 10 on a 10-point scale. I don't want to know about, and I don't want you to have to go through reliving traumas, talking about them, things that are very upsetting to you. You have the voluntary permission to say, hey, time out. I need to back out of this topic. It's going somewhere I don't want to go. And that's okay. And as group leaders, as other group members, that's up to us to respect. But please know, I do expect you to go into some things that are genuinely troubling. And so the way that we get there is we use some of these group language skills to establish safety. I mentioned that a second ago. Safety and trust, those are absolutely crucial for having a successful group. This was put together by another person, but I found it helpful. The one thing that I can tell you in group, please use I messages. And by I don't mean EYE or eyes. I mean I. Use I statements, I messages, I feel statements. This is the best way to gain authenticity, gain trust, start to establish rapport in a group. If people use you becomes accusatory. You speaks for another person. If a person uses we, well, that we're kind of coming to universality. You better be damn sure if you use we that you're right. What I've seen more often than not is when people use the term we in a group, you're speaking for other people, and other people don't necessarily feel that way. Well, we all know what it's like to be in a bad situation with a spouse, or maybe we all don't. You're speaking for people that you don't know. And so you can only speak for yourself in group. Express your own feelings, but limit questions. A good question is not one that's followed up by 5 others consecutively in a row. A good question sets the stage and lets a person express. So I would encourage you to read through some of these things. The one thing I want us to encourage, and so if you're a group leader or another group participant and someone starts to go off and, well, they never do this or they never do that, and they're talking about other people, they're starting to project and not be in the moment in the group. The best groups are people feeling in the moment during that group. So I would suggest to me that starts to say, well, that group, they do this and they do that. How does that impact you? Tell me how that impacts you. And try to get them to use an I statement rather than a they statement or even a you statement. I hope that came across. That's an important part of this. Other things that we want to be sure of for Saturday, this is a private setting. You know, as I expressed in the syllabus, if people go out and blab what's happening in this group, that is completely unnecessary, unexpected, unprofessional, and will not be tolerated. That needs to be something. This is a private setting. The only times where confidentiality will be broken if there's a threat to somebody else. If somebody has, has committed a crime, we'll go over those. We'll go over the limits of confidentiality, but we're under the limits of HIPAA, under the limits of FERPA, and people. The way that these groups are powerful is that you feel authentic and that it's private. So confidentiality is key. One of the things that we go across with that is it's on Zoom. And so I'm going to be very stringent on people if they are not in a private setting. I have a cat that's running back and forth, and every once in a while it gains my attention. But if it's something other than an animal from time to time, if the cat was up here behind me and it continued to be a distraction, that's a problem. I need to put the cat in another room. If the dog's barking, if there are other people in the room, it needs to be a not just a semi-private setting. It needs to be a private setting where your attention, your focus is given to your participants, your other people. This needs to be as close to being in person as possible. If you're on your device, if you're looking at a TV, you will not gain full credit for your participation. In fact, you may be disconnected from the meeting. So let's go back into this in our materials. There are quite a few. I've given you also under this basic counseling skills. For those of you that haven't had strategies and techniques, spend a lot of time really digging through this section of the module. Even if you have, this is good to refresh what we've already talked about. Open and closing the questions, attending behavior, eye contact, verbal tracking, encouragers, requests for information, summarizing, paraphrasing, reflections, reflection of feeling and basic empathy. When you start to do these, when counselors start to do these things, that's when the session goes deeper. More heartfelt information starts to come out. I also included Rogers' necessary and sufficient conditions. There are some things that are antiquated in this, but the basic 6 conditions, this is from 1957, the basic 6 conditions that are listed are well researched, are now, I will say, universally accepted in counseling as necessary for change. 80% of the change in the counseling relationship comes from that rapport, comes from that relationship, comes from the collaboration, comes from the trust, the genuineness, the authenticity we feel with the counselor. When you're the group leader, this sense of calm, understanding, and empathetic presence has to be there. If you're nervous, it impedes that, and you're like, well, crap, I can't do it. I give up. It's okay. That's okay. That's why we do these classes. So you get more comfortable in being genuine and being authentic, because I know each one of you care about others. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So it's there. It's just, how does it come out here? And that's what we're going to work on. So that's what the practice is for. No worries. I can't do it. No, you can. It just takes some effort, some time, some practice. This is what some of you may have never led a counseling session and be out of your comfort zone. This is okay. So the one things I like to give to folks that are brand new, that there are so many things to think about, because there are this video with this lady, there are quite a few things to think about that she gives you to think about, but I want you to hear them. There are quite a few things that you can do to start setting a therapeutic stage, a warm, accepting presence for others. If you get anything and you get stuck, open-ended questions, that OARS acronym, OARS. Open-ended questions, don't use them a lot. 20 questions in a row is not appropriate. A well-placed open-ended question. Reflection, you're listening to someone, you reflect exactly what they say. This establishes congruence, expresses empathy and warmth. Summaries and paraphrasing are good. Summaries generally lead to a transition. Paraphrasing can make something go deeper. It's like a reflection, except you put in your own words. And affirmations are not rah, rah, go, you can do it, you're the best. No, we don't want that. That's cheerleading. No. If a group member wants to cheerlead, I'm probably gonna let that go. If you're the group leader and you cheerlead, no, you're gonna get critical feedback on that. That is not the role of a counselor, to be a cheerleader. The role of a counselor is to affirm. So if somebody feels, I just feel completely overwhelmed with everything that I've got going on in my life. You feel like things are just spinning out of control. You feel completely overwhelmed. That's an affirmation. It's all, you can say, well, that's kind of a feeling reflection. Yeah, it is. But it's also an affirmation of how that person is feeling. Another way to think about this is, I worked all this time and I finally got this promotion at work. You put in a lot of effort. That's something to be, if you say that's something to be proud of, what do you look back? I would even say this. So, and I've said this before, don't say, what do you feel? But if somebody's giving you something like that and you want to affirm that, what is that feeling underneath that you sense from yourself? What does that experience say about you? What is it? So that's an affirmation in a form of a question. You worked so hard, you got a promotion. What does that experience say about you? I can do things if I put my mind to them. That's so much more powerful than saying you got this, because it comes from the client. It's hard to do. I even struggle with it right there. It's hard to do when you don't practice. So that's what we're doing. I talked about emotional intensity. Group counseling skills. Each one of us, when we do this, I'll go over more on Saturday. We're going to give feedback to each other. And I want this to be, I'll just cut to the chase. I want this to be like a criticism sandwich. And so what do you mean by criticism sandwich? I mean, I want you to note things that people did good, that you saw that you liked. Come to something that they could improve. Be very specific on it. Well, you didn't really follow up, and don't speak you language too. Still use the I language, because what you perceive may be something completely different than what the person perceives. So speak from your own perspective. I felt like the session didn't go as deep as it could have, because I saw what I thought was you changed the topic when it started to get deep. I perceived you to change the topic. Could you tell me more about that? So you go to this criticism, this specific criticism in the middle, and then end, but you did summarize well, you did follow up with the person, and you did offer a strong feeling reflection, however you want to do it. Be specific though. That's an important part of the feedback. So the criticism Oreo, even though I like the stuff in the middle better, but but the criticism sandwich, right? Because the bread, but then the critical stuff's in the middle, but you got to have the bread, right? So the positive stuff. Anyway, the group leadership. There's a document here on group leadership. These are the specific skills we're going to work on. So if you want to think about how can I prepare, and you've done strategies and techniques and you're thinking, what can I do? These are the things you're eventually going to be graded on. You'll get some feedback this Saturday from the SFA students, from me, on how well you do at these things, the micro skills and some of these group structure things. We're not going to get to all these. These are going to be accumulating over the semester. You're going to be scaffolding these skills. Introducing group, providing closure, holding focus, changing focus, setting the tone, scanning. We'll talk about what these are. Drawing out, cutting off, linking or joining, using rounds, using dyads. Probably not going to do that. Using exercises. You probably do want to do this for your final project. Demonstrating core conditions. There's those micro skills. This is what I'm really looking for this Saturday. Empathy, congruence, positive regard, warmth and understanding. Do you have open-ended questions? Are you giving reflections? Are you reflecting things that members are saying? Are you summarizing? Are you summarizing things that many people have said? So they go a bit deeper when you're dealing with a group. We're not going to get here this week. We'll get here in 2 weeks after on the 26th. We'll do some advanced skills. And these will be advanced skills as well. Unless you want to already jump in, you're already like, hey, I want to try this. I also give a couple of group therapy examples with Yalom. And here's your discussion board. So you talked about your own personality, how this may or may not be amenable to being a group counselor, your own tendencies, your own self-awareness. And so during this week's module, we covered traits and skills, so that your traits and skills, the traits probably are, I'm thinking, because I listed that as with Capuzzi. I've looked at a lot of information too. So traits and skills will be covered in that section of the book as well. What are your feelings? Just go straight into it. What are your feelings headed into Saturday's class? As you consider the textbooks and the readings and all things that you've been given this week, what are your goals for your own behaviors or attitudes? And it could be both for Saturday. Please use a citation if you can. Please use a citation. And remember, respond to at least 2 of your peers' discussions. And if you want to reflect back on the participation of the group, because the discussion board will be open on Sunday and we'll be done with our group. I would anticipate we'll be done by 2 or 3 on Saturday, so 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. But it'll be a long day. You'll probably be emotionally wiped for a little bit, so we'll try to take a little break in between and make sure that you get some rest. You don't have anything too strenuous, I hope, after class, but it's life. Sometimes we do. If you have any questions this week, please reach out. Otherwise, I will see you on the 12th early in the morning. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.